you ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
All right, welcome in to Rivalry Week. We already know where we're standing here, Buckeye fans. All we care about is the game, but there's more action going on, and we have to gamble. And the Dyerwolf stayed hot, cooled off, I guess, for himself after going 4-1, 3 straight weeks. He goes 3-2 last week, though, still giving you a winning, still making you some money, some profit. I go 2-3 last week. Wasn't my best effort. I think that's 2 weeks in a row, too. But we're going to get back on it this week, and we're going to start off, as we always do, with the Buckeyes. And, of course, we have to this week because it's the game of the week. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the only game that matters. Number 2, Ohio State plays at number 3, Michigan in Ann Arbor. 4-point dogs are the Buckeyes, over under 47. I take the Buckeyes, though, to cover that. Give me the 4 points, and I think they win straight up. But I also think the over hits in what is probably an upset to most people since the Buckeyes games are now 2-9 going against the over.
Whew. Yeah, I think we're going to win outright. I'm never going to bet, never, ever, ever on this game against the spread anyway. I will, however, put money, actual money, on the under. That's one of my 5. I think it's going to be real low scoring. I think it's going to be very similar to the Penn State game. Like we've said in past podcasts that both of us playing Penn State were eerily similar, and I think it's going to be basically the same type of game with us coming out on top. My score was 20-10, I think.
Yeah, I said 29-20 Buckeyes. So that is one of my picks, too, the over for the week, and you took the under. Haas, I believe, had the under and Ohio State to cover as well. All right, Black Friday. We got games all week, though, so every single day you can have your pick. It's going to be great. Black Friday, though, very fitting that it kicks off with the blackest of the offenses, and the over-under has gone down a half point since we started this, Casey. It's now at 27 for the over-under in Iowa and Nebraska. Your favorite pick every week. It was 27.5 when we picked this, though, so I'll give you the extra half point for your weekly Iowa under.
I want to know what they are on the under on the year, but it's always ridiculously low, but they seem I swear they've hit it every time I picked them. So I'm riding it.
I think you have, yeah.
I'm riding it, doing it again, although that number is disgustingly low. And I texted you at halftime of the other one, like, man, they're in a freaking shootout.
10-9.
And then they still hit the under.
Okay. Another Black Friday game that the Haas picked here. Missouri traveling to Arkansas, 7.5 point favorites. He's loved Mizzou all year. Arkansas, one of the stinkers of the conference, dead last in the West. I think they have a tiebreaker over Mississippi State, but who gives a shit about that? But he takes Mizzou when it seems like the obvious line, but Arkansas's played some close games against some tough teams this year. Only lost by 3 to Bama and LSU, I believe. I guess I'll take the Razorbacks +7 because why the hell not?
Yeah, this one seems ballsy to me, so I would go Arkansas because Missouri gave Georgia the best game they have all year. They've seen all year. I think they're legit. So I would think this line would be more like 14.
Yeah. Speaking of 14-point lines, we moved to the night game on Black Friday. Oregon and Oregon State. Oregon, who I think is the best team in the country right now, laying 14 at home in Autzen. Oregon State coming off a heartbreaking loss, tough game against Washington where they probably had them where they wanted them, only to lose by 2. They really, their defense played well against Penix, but their defense has played well at home all year. The road has not been so kind to them. They've given up over 38 points like 3 different times on the road, and I don't see it stopping against this Oregon offense that is in fuego. Bo Nix threw 6 touchdowns in the first half against Arizona State last week. He's well on his way to the Heisman if they can just finish off this run that I think they can, and I think they handle Oregon State. The only thing that scares me about this line a little bit is the look ahead, as now they play Washington for sure next week, and they could get caught looking ahead of that game, and the score could be a little closer than it should be. But I don't trust Oregon State on the road at all this year, and Oregon, I think, is the best team in the country, so I think they cover. They win like maybe 38-21 if they don't play their best.
Yeah, you covered most of why. This was one of my picks, I believe, right? I had Oregon.
Yep. You agreed with me. That was one of my picks, too.
Yeah, so I thought the same thing. One of the biggest things, and just from an Ohio State fan's perspective, it seems like every time we beat we're in a big game, we beat a team, they suck the next week. So that's kind of what I'm thinking Oregon State's going to be. That was demoralizing. If they beat Washington, they'd be in the running for the Pac-12 championship. They could have made they beat Washington, and I had them last week too. That was one of my losses. That was tight. That was close, but that's why I'm going with Oregon. And they're a lot different team away than at home, which you touched on.
Yeah, I added them too. The ballsy picks have not been kind to us the last 2 weeks. We've taken a few of them and they've all lost, but barely. Like they've all been. You've seen why they were where they were, but none of them been able to hit. Speaking of ballsy picks, maybe Auburn coming off a beatdown that they received from New Mexico State. Now this ain't your father's New Mexico State. They're 9-3. I've watched them this year. They have a really good tailback. They got a pretty good team, and but still 21-point home loss to New Mexico State the week before the Iron Bowl. Bama is rolling. They're everybody's darling again all of a sudden coming into town, laying 14.5. I'll take that 14.5 in the rivalry game. It ain't like Bama's actually been blowing out anybody besides Chattanooga. So them winning by more than 14 would kind of be not what they've been doing all year. So I'm going to take that 14.5. War Eagle, baby.
I stayed away from it. I never like to bet against Bama, especially they're peaking right now pretty much. But if I had to, I'd probably, I don't know. I think I'd pick Bama if I had to.
The Haas agrees with you and did take Bama, but fuck him for not coming on. All right, Kentucky and Louisville also at noon in the Bluegrass State rivalry. Louisville, I mean, if things get a little crazy, they could end up in the playoff. A little bit crazy. Not even that crazy, especially now with Florida State's quarterback being down, with Travis going down for the rest of the year, and they're going to play each other in the ACC championship. The problem is they play Kentucky in the rivalry game. 7-point favorites at home, though, are Louisville. They could get caught looking ahead because now their eyes have to be wide. Oh, crap. Florida State's QB's down. We can win that game. We could be ACC champs 11-1 or 12-1 and maybe backdoor our way into the playoff. I don't think they get caught looking ahead too much, though. They've been really good at home this year. Kentucky has been falling on its face lately. I'll lay the 7, I think, but it's going to be really close. I don't love that whole 7 points. But I think it's more of a push, to be honest. But I'll take 28-20. But the Haas picked this as one of his games. He took Kentucky plus the 7.
I'll go with Louisville too, but that's a good point. I hadn't thought about them making it into the playoff. Basically, the Pac-12 would have to not get in. Washington, well,
it's almost impossible now unless Oregon loses to Oregon State and then beats Washington.
Yeah, who's Washington got the last week?
Who do you think they got, baby?
Washington?
Yeah, Washington State. Come on, Apple Cup.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
A game I picked. We'll talk about it. We can talk about it now. Washington. Later on at night, though. Hosting the Apple Cup. Wazoo comes into town. I think they're actually traveling to Wazoo. Where is it? Where is this damn game? But 16-point favorites is Washington. Now, Wazoo has been falling on their face lately, but it hasn't been in blowout fashion. They're down to 5-6. They started out 5-1. Have struggled lately, or 4-1 and struggled lately. But 16 points is a lot. They're coming off a very hard-fought win, a tough stretch of games, a really tough stretch of games Washington just played. They should be number 4 this week. Hell, they should be number 3 ahead of Michigan. Michigan hasn't beat anybody worth a shit, and they just played a close game against like one of the better teams they've played, which is sad to say when it's Maryland. So I will take the 16 points, though, with Wazoo in that game, just because I think a little, and plus the look-ahead factor, too, for Washington. I don't get how they're playing that many points. So I'll take the 16.
Yeah, Maryland is the second best team freaking scum has played. That's ridiculous. Yeah, I think Washington definitely deserves. They're definitely deserving to jump Florida State and Michigan too. But with that one, the rivalry game, that's kind of a lot of points. But I don't really trust Washington State. I think they whoop them.
All right, now moving back up the lines. Georgia Tech playing Georgia. Georgia 23-point favorites. They went through not the murderer's row, but a pretty good stretch of schedule there. I don't think Tennessee's as good as people were making them out to be. Unfortunately, I thought I took that as one of my ballsiest picks last week, I thought, and it did not work out well for me as they destroyed Tennessee at Tennessee. But 23-point favorites in the rivalry game almost seems low to me. I think I'd probably take Georgia still, though, because Georgia Tech just is not good and lost at home to Bowling Green earlier this year.
Yep, this was one of mine. I actually went with Georgia Tech purely because basically this SEC championship game is already set. They could easily look ahead. I mean, they're two-time defending national champs, so they probably have a pretty good structure that they're not going to do that as much as other teams might. But it is a rivalry, and it's kind of a lot of points, so that's why I went with Georgia Tech.
All right. And I think our last game here. And Haas took the under in this game. It's 46.5. Our last game, Florida and Florida State. Man, what a game this was. This is actually what I was thinking about this the other day. Ohio State and Michigan have played each other as both top 5 teams. What now, like 3 or 4 times in the last 7 years, which is crazy. That's what Florida and Florida State was like there in the mid to late 90s. Like every year, both teams top 5. It was awesome. Florida getting 6.5 at home. They've been a struggle show lately. They need this win to be bowl eligible, I do believe. And Florida State, though, just lost Travis for the season, their quarterback. That spells bad news, I think, for them and their playoff hopes, maybe, because I could see the committee just, unless they like look impressive these last 2 games without him, leaving them out, even if they're undefeated. Probably not, but it could happen. But you're taking UF in this game plus 6.5. I don't know how to feel about it, but it's in the swamp, so I think I'll go with you there.
Yeah, I mean they've been one of my playoff teams all year long just because of the schedule, and I thought the Pac-12 would eat themselves. That's no longer the case. They're not going to be one of my playoff picks now because of the quarterback thing. Florida is nothing to write home about. They're not fantastic, but I haven't really been impressed with Florida State over the past month, to be honest with you. They haven't looked that great. No, they don't have their Heisman candidate quarterback. So I could see Florida winning this game outright. I think it's going to be really, really close. But, yeah, that is one stat I was going to say in the last one, and I forgot. Since 2000, only 3 teams have been 11-0 and 11-0 when facing each other, and all 3 have been Ohio State, Michigan.
That is insane. I don't know what that says about the Big Ten, but that is insane. All right. Good transition, though, talking about Florida State here into our picks, as we always do at the end of this podcast. We talk about our 4 playoff teams. So I was a week ahead of this, unfortunately. I've been taking Florida State to lose a random game all season, and then I finally, after they escaped Miami, I was like, all right, they're going to run the table. They're going to make the playoff. And then Travis gets hurt. I'm like, of course, now that happens. So I'm taking them out again. I'll take Georgia, Ohio State, like I have, Texas, and Oregon as my 4 teams still. I've heard some interesting talk, though, and I don't know what you think about this, about Bama being in and Georgia, regardless if Bama beats Georgia in the SEC championship, regardless of what happens with everybody else.
No, I don't agree. I wouldn't put anything past the committee. They basically do whatever the hell they want, and SEC thing pretty much. But to me, I think it's bullshit if Bama jumps Texas. Period. If Texas wins out, I don't give a shit what Bama does. If Bama gets in, great, but they should not be ahead of Texas. If Bama gets in, that means Georgia's not in, because Big Ten champ's in 100%. Unless something crazy happens in the Pac-12 champ is in. So that's 2 right there. And then I guess the ACC is screwing it up because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But an undefeated Florida State, I don't care. I know the whole quarterback thing, but if they're undefeated, if they're 13-0, they're ahead of anybody with a loss. I don't give a shit who it is.
They got to be in. You're right. It's kind of funny, though, because like the nightmare scenarios are like coming true finally. The last year of the 4-team playoff were just like, and it was the same way with the LSU and Bama, the rematch to get us to the playoff, even though it was basically already decided upon at that point. It's just like, yep, this is why we need it. And like this year, maybe like, yep, this is why we need more than 4 teams, because we're going to have too many teams. I don't agree with that at all, though, you're right, about Bama. But the way the committee set it up and not moving Washington ahead of Florida State last week, even though resume-wise, if they want to talk about resume, they should be like number 2 team in the country, or 3, like right there with Ohio State.
Yeah.
And ahead of Michigan as well.
Yeah.
They weren't getting the respect. I do feel like it's like they are trying to set it up where they can keep the Pac-12 champ out, even if it's a one-loss team, if it's one-loss Oregon, because then they'll barely be ahead of Bama now, but then they'd be. But I don't know. They're 2 spots ahead of Bama right now, aren't they? Yeah. There's no way Oregon doesn't make it and Bama makes it. There's pretty much no way.
The only way Bama's making it is if they jump Texas, and I don't think that's right if they do. Or if I guess so. We're in. I'm assuming we beat Scum because they fuck them. Oregon, I think, is in guaranteed if they win out.
Oregon or Washington, if either one of them wins out, they're
in. SEC champ is in. If it's, I guess, well, I don't know if Bama. Georgia's out. If Bama, only one SEC team is in.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
And if Florida State wins out, they're in. So basically, you're saying it's down to Texas or Bama. Right?
Yeah.
Bama lost to them at home.
Yeah, by 10. Well, it was a conclusive victory too. No, nothing was fluky about that win.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, does beating the 2-time defending national champ at the last game of the season trump knocking out a team that actually beat you? Is the question. And
I mean, it's not an easy decision either way, but I think there's a right and a wrong decision there. And I think you're right, Casey.
The easier out is Texas is in because they fucking beat them.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week, though. Enjoy Rivalry Week. Enjoy Thanksgiving with your families. Unless you're from Michigan, then go fuck yourself. For the Dyerwolf, I'm just Matt, and we will see you guys next time.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but that